Welcome to Project U 2.2, the space for people who are standing at the edge of change, ready to become who they were always meant to be. Today's conversation is for the woman and the man who have done everything right, worked hard, stayed disciplined, pushed through, and yet you may feel tired, stuck, or just a little disconnected from who you are. If you have ever thought, why isn't this working anymore? This episode is for you because sometimes in life, pushing harder stops being heroic and starts being harmful. And most of us miss that moment. My guest today is Heike Yates, midlife fitness expert, ultra marathoner, Ironman triathlete, former bodybuilder, and creator of the Spark Framework. She's also the author of Pursue Your Spark. But what makes Heike extraordinary isn't just what she has achieved. It is how deeply she understands what it means to outgrow the version of yourself that once worked. Heike, welcome to Project U 2.2.
Carrie, I'm excited about our conversation.
As I've been getting to know you, Heike, I've noticed so many parallels in our lives. We were both born in Germany. My dad was in the service. In fact, we even hosted an exchange student from Germany when our three boys were younger. We both went through a weight loss journey of losing 50 pounds. We both love Pilates, and I love how you pronounce Pilates. In fact, all week I've been practicing it. It's Pilates? Is that how you say it?
Exactly, Pilates.
Yes. And now here we are. We're both authors, podcasters, coaches, and just helping others navigate change. So it makes this conversation just so much fun for me to have you here. So before we go deep, when I was a teacher, I would put students in the hot seat and we would ask them 22 questions just to get to know each other better. So I'll ask you, we'll stick to around the 5. Are you ready for the hot seat?
I'm ready for the hot seat. Okay.
Okay. All right. Heike, I heard your husband recently gifted you a saxophone. And years ago, you mentioned you wanted to learn. So what's it like to start something new as an adult?
Oh my God. When I saw that saxophone under the Christmas tree, I thought this couldn't be a piece for my bike or for training. It has a very strange box. And he said, you mentioned to me years ago when you still lived in Munich, you heard this guy play a saxophone. He was this big tree in the English garden and he was just practicing or just having fun playing and you just loved the sound. And I went up to this guy. I was really fascinated with the saxophone, the sound of it and all the shiny things that go with it. And he said, well, blow in. And I actually got a sound out of it. And my husband said, I remember that at some point you said, if you ever wanted to learn an instrument, it would be the saxophone. Now, I've never played an instrument. I do not know how to read music. I don't know anything about it. I just thought, how cool would this be? I'm going to play the Pink Panther. That's my goal. But
I can just see you on the streets of Washington, D.C. with your case open, collecting donations as you play on the corner.
With my Pink Panther over and over.
Panther.
And it's interesting that when you start something new, and I had the saxophone now for 2 years. Last year, I played it once. And then I wrote a book. But this year I said, I just like it. And what I like the most about it, aside from learning where to put my fingers and getting sounds out that make actually sense, is putting it together. Mm-hmm. It's in the container, it's in the box, and you take it out and you have to put the pieces together. And that takes a little while. I'm no pro at this. So I'm going, okay, the neck goes here and do you have to put the thing here? And
you have to get that reed all situated on there. Yes.
That is the worst, the reed. I was like, this is my biggest struggle.
I was a clarinet player for years, all through middle school and high school. So I know how terrible that building those muscles in your face for your embouchure to be right.
But it's the pure joy, Carrie, is putting it together. And I'm standing there and I'm feeling really cool. And I do a little Instagram reel that I put in stories to show off my progress. And my daughter's just laughing. She's like,
Oh,
Mom,
I
you
it's
got
great.
ways to go, but I'm okay.
Oh, sometimes our kids are our biggest critics. So, well, speaking of kids, you've raised two children and raising kids into adulthood. I think parents, when you're young and new at parenting, you think it's just going to be hard and it only gets harder. And it feels like that's a marathon in your world itself. So, looking back, what's one thing that you wish you had known when they were teenagers?
I don't think I have anything that I wish I would know because I was a single mom. I did the best I could with what I had. I had at one point $300 a month to put food on the table, pay our bills, pay the mortgage. So I maxed out my credit card. I wish I had more time with them because I
Mhm.
was so busy trying to get a job, finding a job, making extra cash on the side so we actually could go on vacation. I tried to do as much as possible with them as they grew into adulthood, running marathons together, going rock climbing with my son. So activities that either cost nothing or very little to do, but more time is something I wish I had. We were such a tight knit unit. My son says sometimes, Mom, I wonder, how did you do that? You had literally no money, but you fed us, you clothed us, you did all the things, and we had always a good time.
I came from a similar upbringing where my parents were married, but not any extra cash. I look back at my childhood and my mom did have to be so creative to learn how to still do all of those things and to make us have the confidence that we had to fit in. So I love that.
We ate a lot of lasagna, let me say that.
Oh, we used to have pancake weeks, so lasagna is great. How did you balance pushing your kids to grow and achieve while also just giving them time to make mistakes and not being a total helicopter mom?
I couldn't be a helicopter mom. I was too, at that time when in their teenage times, when they're before or around college, I worked two jobs basically. I was working for the fitness industry. I was working at a health club locally for 40 hours a week plus to make extra money as a personal trainer. And then I became a resistable coach trainer with the resistor balls that were very popular in the mid 80s, those big blown up exercise balls. And I developed Pilates with resistor ball with that company that eventually hired me to develop the program for them and then travel as a coach to fitness clubs to teach other coaches how to use the ball, not just with Pilates, but with fitness equipment and integrate it into the gym. Again, so I had very little time to be with them and to hover around them. And I'm just like, okay, cross your fingers and hope things will work out. For the most part, it worked out. And I have to say, there was a time which I don't want to talk about. My daughter had difficulties, but I had the backing of my ex husband. We had, in the beginning, we're like, oh, my kids, your kids, divorce. I hate you too. And then we were like, okay, well, this is really dumb. We loved each other once. We have amazing kids. Let's make the best of it. And he
Mhm.
was a great help then when things came up that I just couldn't handle by myself. And so I
Mhm.
had that backing from him.
That's so important through divorce, especially when there are kids involved, to put them first and to kind of step back and leave your differences aside. It's so healthy. As a teacher and as a mom myself, I think your kids seeing you so disciplined and working so hard that role model, that example was there. And so they were toeing the line for you. Plus, you just kept them so active, like you said, running races with you. And that's some good quality time together.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
What
Yeah.
is one thing, Heike, that you wish you had known right now where you are that you wish you had known when you were maybe 35 in the thick of the parenting and the working so hard?
That I don't have to work so hard, that I can ask for help more often, that I don't have to do it all alone, that there's so many of us in the same shoes. And in my mind back then, I was the one who wanted the divorce. So I lost basically all my friends. They all went with my husband and I was by myself and I didn't see that there were other women in the same shoes that I could cahoots with, that I could get ideas from, or help, or exchange, like, driving the kids to the sports teams or whatever it is. It didn't occur to me that there is a community of like minded women that go through similar things, that feel exactly the way we feel. It didn't occur to me. So I was powering through, and I got this, and stress, and yeah, it didn't occur to me.
I think
Now I
that's
know it's
one.
different.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful thing about social media is that we have a bigger glimpse into that to find other people's stories that we can relate to.
Yeah.
Mhm. What's one thing that people assume about you that isn't true?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Um, that I'm a tough coach.
Mhm.
Everybody says, ha, there's the German coach. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Well, Germans are supposed to be by the rules, really tough, get stuff done, no excuses.
Heike, your journey is incredible. From losing the 50 pounds, and I know how hard that is, from being a single mom and then doing Ironman races, ultra marathons, bodybuilding, and now coaching people through their lives. What did pushing harder look like from the old you?
Oh, relentless. Doesn't matter if your knee hurts, if your back hurts, you're pushing through. Getting up at 4, and I remember at my bodybuilding days, I had to get the kids up at 6 to get ready for school. I would get up at 4 and practice those poses for 2 hours before they actually had to get up, make breakfast, and get them to school.
Mm.
And I was so disciplined and so hard on myself that I didn't listen when my body needed a break, needed recovery. Just didn't feel, there was no day, don't feel like it. That's not happening back then. And I've gotten much smarter about this, that the progress does not happen in the pushing harder phase, but in the recovery phase, where you take that breath, where you take a pause, where you take a day off. And so pushing hard was just being relentless. We got to get the job done no matter what.
When did you realize? Did something happen to make you realize that you didn't have to be on that straight pushing path all of the time?
Yes and no, but it really was 3 years ago when my knee got really arthritic. I had to give up running. And I was pushing. I was like, okay, we just did an Ironman triathlon. And okay, let's prepare for the next thing. And let's go. My knee was nagging and it was horrible, horrible, horrible. So I went to the doctor and he looked at my knee and he said, schedule a knee replacement right away. We have a 3 months time book out. And I'm going, what? Now? No, I'm not doing this. So that's 3 years later now. But what I did is I took accountability and I said, okay, listen, what are we going to do? Do we need to keep running? I'm almost 65. Can we just start walking? Can we walk fast? Still get a good benefit out of the exercise part? That's what I was looking for. And I had to grapple with this for about a year to make peace with not being a runner anymore. But I had to really sit down and say, what am I going to do now? In my mind, I can't do triathlons because I can't run. I mean, who's looking at who? Nobody cares. Who is looking at this woman and saying, "Oh, look at her, she's walking." Nobody cares but yourself. Should I do just duathlons? What do I do now? And then I said, okay, number one, I need to fix my knee as best as I can. In the long run, will I need a knee replacement? Yes. There's just no way about it. But I postponed it for 3 years so far by doing Pilates and strength training and stretching and not running. And it really said, "Ooh, let's take a step back. Does everything you do, Heike, has to be competitive? Does everything have to be, ooh, let's go to podium or let's break that PR?" No,
Mhm.
it doesn't. Because it's all just for me. If it's for me, why am I so competitive with myself? What am I
Mhm.
getting out of the at the end? Will I be happier, smarter, stronger? Or do I just want to prove something to myself? And what if I want to prove? What is that? So
Mhm.
it was this step back of I'm still athletic, but in a different way.
That's so insightful. And being around runners, it just reminds me of me going from being a teacher to recently retired and that whole identity shift because I know you were a serious runner. And so to almost take that away from yourself must have been hard. I'm sure you went through a little bit of depression. I know even if my husband had foot surgery last winter and he couldn't run for a couple of months, and I see how that affected him.
Yeah, it was a year-long grieving process because
Hmm.
I had identified not being the bodybuilder, not being the triathlete, but be the runner was my identity. And when
Hmm.
you take that away, and that goes for anything in midlife, we have our identity for different phases in our life and our roles that we play in our lives. And I was a runner. Who am
Hmm.
I not being a runner? I'm a nobody.
Hmm.
I mean, just think about the words that are coming out, what that I was thinking. I'm a nobody. I'm gaining probably all the 50 pounds back. Oh, I'm
Hmm.
going flabby. I'm not meeting my friends. I can't be the running coach. I'm losing my authority as a running coach. So much goes on with this. And so for a year, I was trying my darnest to get that knee back, and I had to finally capitulate and say, it's just not going to happen. And even if I was to get a knee replacement, I still wouldn't run on it. I would not want to risk having to do a second knee replacement and that goes wrong, or it's a very volatile piece of body that's not easy to replace things with. But it
Hmm.
is the grieving. I was like, oh my God.
Hmm. I have run one marathon before.
Yes.
Running is not my favorite. So I really appreciate you walking. Walking to me just it's a great time to notice nature, to listen to a book, to listen to my favorite podcast. That's a good transition. But yes, lots of time to just adjust. So
Yes.
if a listener is feeling exhausted with or maybe even frustrated with their body, what would you gently tell them today?
Why are you frustrated? Because I think most of them are frustrated. Why are you frustrated? What is the goal that your body should do? How should it perform based on what? What you see on Instagram? What you see at the gym? Or where does that come from? Or is it from, of course, from the beauty industry of showing us what we need to look like? I would say, look at that. Is that realistic? I have a cousin, I almost said I used to, I still have her, a cousin that had the most sexy body, small hips, juicy big boobs. I was like, I want to look like her. And I would starve myself and exercise. I mean, I couldn't, unless I would put implants in, I couldn't grow my boobs. And there was no way on this planet that I ever, ever, ever would look like her. And honestly, I was jealous of her body. I wanted her body. But then as you get smarter and say, you know what? My body can do so much. Why does it have to look a certain way? And we oftentimes feel that our body lets us down. It's not doing what we want it to do based on what model. Like my cousin example, I would never, ever in a million years look like her unless I do plastic surgery. So ask yourself that question. What is it that you're not happy about, and why are you not happy?
Mhm. And God obviously must have known that you were going to be a runner because those big, juicy boobs would not have settled well for a fast runner breaking PRs.
I know.
Oh,
No, it said,
I, as you're sharing this, it reminds me so much of my middle son. So, Jackson, when he was 18, he really had big aspirations with running and he kept facing injury after injury. And he was the number one runner for our high school. He set a middle school record. But after all of those injuries, he kept coming back to he'd have to swim for recovery, go to therapy, do some biking. His senior year, he decided to drop out of cross country, which was a big shock. But I think for him, he was the same. He was a runner, and that was his identity, and he couldn't do it to his fullest potential with all of these injuries happening. I'll never forget him sitting my husband and I down and saying, I want to go to Waco, Texas to do an Ironman. And he wasn't a swimmer or a biker, but he had done all of that for his recovery. So it was a big convince. We had to drive him across the country from Michigan to Texas for a weekend. He cashed in over $2,000 of cans, pop can returnables from people who donated them to just pay for his entrance to get in. And then he borrowed equipment. On the drive there, the bike fell off the back of our car. He had to get it repaired. People threw tacks out during the race just to mess with the athletes, and it was so much. In fact, his leg cramped up during the swim part of it, and so he had to swim with one leg and his arms.
Oh my God.
The next year, he said, okay, I'm thinking as his mom, like, okay, this is one and done. He's done. Now he wants to run a 100-mile ultramarathon in Moab, Utah. So I could only see him at every 25 miles. In that last 25 miles, he was in terrible shape. The weather was terrible. The terrain was terrible. He was hallucinating. He thought he had broken bones in his feet, wouldn't change his shoes. And I begged him to quit, but he didn't. He kept going. And as a mom, that was one of the hardest things I had to do, was sit and wait for him, because we didn't have cell service out in the desert. And it was storming so bad. But I realized later that he wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone else. For him, he was just trying to, one, survive the depression he was facing from not being able to do what he loved, but then to also show himself that he was stronger, he was braver and more capable than he ever believed he could be. And I think so many of us do that with our bodies, with things in our lives, and we push ourselves so hard, push past limits. We ignore some signals sometimes, and then choose maybe just like who we think we should be. People thinking like, I'm not enough. I need to do more. And then, like I said, it seems heroic until it's not. When that starts to shift, there's that fine line. Can you talk about that at all?
First off, I love the story that he ran Utah. I'm very well versed with the 100-milers, which I wanted to do as my next big race. And it's just knee and everything. I just couldn't. I just could not do that. But more power to him. But I think that when we go through, and the listeners probably saying, man, they're talking about all these crazy races and long, hard things. I'm not an athlete. What are they talking about? I can make it successfully around the block, or I can walk a 5-miler, or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. I want you guys to understand that it doesn't matter what we use as an example. But when we're going through these phases to prove to ourselves that we still can, I see that oftentimes in people that are older, not just the young ones. And when I'm 65 this year, and my oldest client is 100. Yeah, he just turned 100 this week. Hey.
Amazing.
So I think what is next is what we all look for. What is the next thing I can do without getting stuck in the what I used to be able to do? I used to be a great tennis player, for example. But now I can't play tennis because I have injuries. I have all kinds of things going on. Or maybe I have no desire to play tennis anymore, but I think I should be doing that. I think that we need to let go of what was before, look at the path that we're setting ahead, and be flexible in the path. If your son would have quit, great, more power to him. But he wasn't. Also more power to him. And I think that's very individual for us to determine when something is too much. Nobody can tell us that. Nobody can say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe sometimes it's smart not to do certain things. But I think we can look at all of this and learn from it that it's really first of a personal choice of where we're going, and we choose how far we go.
Heike, I love that you have a client who is 100. I think one of my goals is to get a client who is in their 70s or their 80s. I never thought about pushing it to 100 because I think that I hope when I'm 100 that I am working with a coach and still learning and still growing. It's so healthy, and just working on our emotional intelligence is so important. So kudos to your client. That's awesome. Heike, you created Spark. So I want to go there next as just as a response to all that you have lived, all that you have learned. So can you walk us through what each letter of Spark stands for?
The Spark framework is a path. It's not a method, but it's a framework where we can all build whatever it is you want to do next in life. You can picture anything basically with my Spark framework. The S stands for scanning, or some people call it the why. But when you ask people about their why, everybody rolls their eyes and goes, yeah, okay, the why. They all want to know that. The scanning. Let's say let's get away from sports. I want to cook a recipe. It's a good example because I went through that. Haha. um, I want to cook a recipe, but I don't know what kind of recipe I want to cook. So I'm scanning around and see what kind of recipes there are around. And you're thinking, oh, well, there's like 3 recipes that make a great dinner. I'm going to choose these 3 recipes after I look at the ingredients and nobody has allergies. So, okay, so I'm scanning out. I nailed my 3 recipes. Then I make a plan. So I need to figure out, do I have all the ingredients? Do I have everything in the house in order to make that, or do I have to buy a lot? And I have to preface this with that I made a lot of lasagna for my kids, and I made the good German family recipes, measure by hand. There was no cups. It was like throw in this, throw in that, add a little bit more of this. So I don't have any formal follow a recipe idea. My husband at the time, my new husband was a fantastic cook. He still is. And then he got a job. So he would take over the cooking once we got married. I was like, I'm done. I fed 2 kids. They're out of the house. You're doing the cooking. I want to chill out and drink wine on the other side of the counter. So that was always mine. And he cooked. Then he got a job outside of the house. So he worked from home remote, and then he had to drive to work. So he couldn't cook anymore. And I said, all right, Heike, you can make healthy recipes that you've never made before. But I was scared about any recipe that had more than 5 ingredients. Okay. No kidding. And so when you go into your planning phase, I would plan. Okay, this recipe has 5. Okay, I have all the ingredients. I can make this. This one has 9 ingredients. I'm not making that one. And besides, I will not buy 2 additional things that we may never use. And then you go to the action part. And then you start making your recipe and you chop and you do everything and put it all together. And then usually the R is a roadblock. You may need to grill some chicken, but you don't have a grill. That's a roadblock. So, what are you going to do? So, I have my recipe with 5 ingredients, but I need to grill my chicken, but I can't. So, I need to look at my recipe and see what else can I do. So, I'm basically rescanning and saying, hey, I don't need to grill it. I can just bake it in the oven. That's going to work. So, I solved that roadblock. And then I'm on the road to my 5 ingredient recipe with my chicken. And that's in the end with the K, which is keeping momentum, as my editor said I should call it. I call it kick ass. And there you are with your recipe. So you created the recipe. Now this goes for everything and anything: running, walking, losing weight, mindset strategies. Like you feel overwhelmed, you're looking for a new job. You can go back through the steps and say, for instance, at the R, I have a roadblock. I have no grill. I could have thrown out the whole recipe and said, I'm making something completely different. And that would start back with the scanning. Or you take action. And as I took action in my recipe, I may say, I really don't enjoy the ingredients and how it's prepared. Let's go back to let's search a little bit. Let's scan it for another recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just in simple terms. So we're getting away from those big audacious goals and those big races. It's very simple things, or it could be knitting, going through steps that are a framework that you can apply over and over wherever you're stuck or wherever you go, this is not what I thought it's going to be. And it's not starting over, it's reworking your ideas and spark more curiosity about the things that you actually want to do or change.
Mm-hmm. I think that is so important that each of those elements are in whatever process we are going through, to know your why, or to do your scanning before you start. Otherwise, you don't have a clear vision to get there. And you are right to really just go through. There are going to be roadblocks, and sometimes those roadblocks do send you back to the beginning and let's start over, because this isn't the path I should be going down and it doesn't feel aligned. So is there one element or one of those letters or steps that you find people skip most often?
The planning part, I would say. They want to get into it.
Mhm.
Let's not plan. I mean, we scanned, oh, this is what I want to do. Let's just go for it. Not saying, oh, I need a training plan maybe, or I start slow. I need to figure out how fit I am, to go back to the fitness idea, and actually to do this. What do I need to do? They want to go right into it. And then they complain that it didn't work out.
Mhm.
But you didn't honor the process. You didn't figure out, is it right for me? Is it doable? Do I have time for this? Is it just a big audacious goal that is a great goal, but it's my girlfriend's goal and not mine? Or it's something I saw on Instagram and I said, wow, this is really great. And you realize that you're just not cut out to do whatever that thing is that you see. Um, but jumping right into it. I'm
Mhm.
going to go forward. I'm just moving. And I think that is one of the biggest um, problems that I see when people start something is, let's do
Mhm.
it, just go.
Mhm. So if someone has, we all have goals, and sometimes we put them off because they seem too big, hairy, and audacious. And so we just keep thinking that someday we'll get to them. Meanwhile, we stay small, we stay frustrated. So something that a listener could do just this week to maybe just build some micro action.
Number one, get my book and
Mhm.
start reading wherever you want, but get quiet. It's get rid of the noise around you. Get rid of the yay and the naysayers and the plans and the what you've written down and the notes you made and somebody, even a supportive person goes, yeah, yeah, you can do this. When deep down you're not really sure, is this what I want? Is this where I want to go? Be quiet. Take out your earbuds. Don't listen to a book or music. It's just go out for a walk, breathe and get clarity about what it is that you really want. And many people, it's like the part where we look at what to do next. People don't want to do that because it may get uncomfortable. Because we may figure out that the goal that we set is really not our goal and that the goal is really great for somebody else, but it's really not lighting up ourselves.
Heiko,
And
that's great advice. I think on my walks is where I come up with my future plans, with my next chapter, even episode topics for podcasts. It is when we really sit in that quiet. So that is great advice for that. So let's imagine that I'm sitting in front of you right now as a client. You are the coach, and I'm just feeling frustrated. I'm doubting myself. How would you guide me through Spark right now?
I would say, why are you frustrated? I was like, Carrie, why are you frustrated? I know you're frustrated. And do you say, Heike, oh, I don't know, nothing's really working out and I'm doing all the things and I don't know. I need to start over again. And I would say, Carrie, why do you need to start over again? What is it that you want to do that frustrates you so much? What is it in there? What's the R in there that's frustrating? Is it that you said, I was going to run a marathon, but you realize you only have time for a 5K realistically? So you're adding more stress to your life and goals that are great goals, but they're not achievable with the time you give it right now. Let's look at what races you could do if you, instead of the marathon, where you could start. And then you might say, a 5K, that's nothing, Heike. And I say, it's a start. We got to stay to take baby steps. We always take baby steps. First, we get you to move in the right direction, and then we tweak it as you go along. And I want you to think of it. I'm not a failure because I'm not doing the marathon goal, but you're succeeding because you chose a bite-sized baby step that you can actually do and be successful with it. Once you do that and you own that goal, that 5K, let's talk again. Now let's get moving.
Mm-hmm. That is so great. And it just reminds me, yesterday I was coaching one of my clients and she's working on decluttering, we'll call it, her home. And she felt frustrated because she didn't get the room she was focusing on this past week done. She didn't get much started. But when we paused and really looked at all she had accomplished so far, and that she's learning to protect the systems and she's keeping the spaces clean that she's already done, there's so much to celebrate. And so I think you're right, just really focusing on those small things. And sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for all the work that we've done. We have that negative self-talk going in our head and we want to get to that end goal now. So great advice. I've been to Pilates every day almost since last May. And I've noticed that the consistency not just makes me feel more confident, more comfortable, but I think the energy, and I truly love it. It's on a reformer. And I just notice my posture as we age, my balance, my core strength, just so much. So what advice would you give to people to just maybe help them stay aligned, to help them stay consistent with something without just always pushing harder?
I mean, I would say don't start like Carrie 5 days a week. When you start
It's 7 days a week.
seven days a week. Oh my goodness. You need a rest day. Listen to me. You guys, she needs a rest day. Please send her an email answer on the show and say, Carrie, when is your rest day?
Oh.
It's creating a pattern without overwhelm. I always feel, again, with the goals that we talked about, the goals are too big. A habit that's too big is not going to stick, and it's not going to be a fun thing for you to do because it becomes pressure. I always say start with one thing, and you started Pilates. So start with one Pilates class and start and see how you like it. At first, get your questions answered, see how you like the teacher. You may want to switch to teacher or change the equipment if you can, or do the Pilates mat work. But start with something that's small and doable. And it may not even be a whole hour. You may just start out with a YouTube video and say, oh, I want to just check it out and see what it's like. And then progress from there. And we always hear habits take 6 weeks to take hold. Baloney. It takes way longer. And also we find that over the years, we may have established a habit and suddenly it falls away without why? No idea. We just stop doing what that thing was. So when you start something, it may last forever. It may last for months, for years, whatever. It doesn't matter. But start with the smallest thing that you can do. Let's say you took the YouTube video, get going, and then you say, I want more instruction. I want to be clear of what that all means. Then take a class with a qualified coach that can coach you through it. maybe one-on-one first so you understand better how things go. Then maybe advance to a group class once you feel more confident. And that can take years. I mean, I've been teaching Pilates for over 20 years now. And when people come to me and they want to work with me, whether it's in my group coaching or in online or virtual or in person, how often should I come? Can I come 5 days a week? And I'm like, God, no, please do not come 5 days a week.
Mhm.
But vary it, do different things, do
Mhm.
some Pilates, do some strength, do some walking, break it up, work on a different piece of equipment to keep the spark going. But
Mhm.
to go back to your question, pick something that you think could be fun. As Marie Kondo says, something that brings you joy. If you
Mhm.
thought it would be cool to work on those reformer machines, give it a whirl. And then see, you got to give it a little bit of time. From my experience, people that come the first one or two times, they expect miracles. It's not that way, but it grows on you. And as Carrie experiences, the breath, the movement, the flow of the class, the different exercises that strengthen and stretch you almost at the same time is amazing to me. And it's such a great tool to work at any age. It is low impact, as Carrie also finds out, that there's no jarring. So perfect for us midlifers and anybody with orthopedic needs. And it is portable. If you don't have access to a reformer or piece of equipment, you can always go to the mat and work on
Mhm.
at home.
Mhm.
So
I think that
be
is key. Yeah, is to find something and you nailed it. Something that you enjoy, that brings you spark, that is fun. I know a few years ago I really got into pickleball and or even just walking like and doing Pilates. The time goes by so fast. You don't feel like you're exercising. It
yeah.
isn't like me out there trudging the streets trying to get a mile in and wondering looking at my clock watch to see when I can stop, and that is I think so important. Mhm. What does pushing harder, why does that backfire, do you think, after we're, I don't know, let's go with 40?
Energy depletion. We only, especially around that time, we're in perimenopause, menopause, for some women, early menopause. We are already having less energy to begin with. Our hormone household is changing, and pushing harder is definitely going to backfire for most people. Not everybody, but for most people. You only have so much energy. Then you're depleting that energy, and then you have no energy for the rest of your life, and you're dreading maybe the next workout because you may still be depleted and not have to had the time to recover and recharge. I think that's a big the energy house or managing the energy household. And the energy household, I always think about it. It's sometimes we think about pushing through exercises and not eating enough protein because in Heike's world you have protein with every meal. The people you're around with that you surround yourself with can be a crazy energy drain. The job you have could be a crazy energy drain. The activities you have planned they're- that you don't enjoy, that they're shoulds, they're have tos, that drain your energy. Your schedule that's way full drains your energy, and it all comes together. And then you can't sleep, which drains your energy even more. So being really aware of where your energy household is critical for all of us, for all of us.
What habits do you think move that needle for your energy, for your metabolism, and your confidence?
Don't hang out with people that are negative.
Mm.
Don't take on jobs you really don't want to take on. Do exercises that are good for you. Eat protein with every meal because it gives you energy. Um, Basically, look at your whole scan, your whole life, and see where the energy leaks are coming from. And then
Mhm.
start plugging them one by one. And it's not
Mhm.
just about eating healthy, sleeping well. These are parts of it. The rest counts as well.
Mhm. Good advice, especially I think for people pleasers
Mm.
who have a hard time saying no. And so, yes, choosing things that align. I think that gets easier for me, anyways, the older I get. What about, I always wish, and now looking and working with clients with their whole nervous system, I wish I had known more about that in my earlier years to recognize things, to calm my nervous system, to kind of regroup it. When looking at a nervous system regulation, what do you think? Any advice on that?
I wouldn't say go take a spa day, although that's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say really again look at your all around you, what's going on with you, with your life. How do you feel about it? What stresses you out? What's where I think that ties also in that stress regulation is where do you set boundaries? And I talk about this in my book. Boundaries with yourself and boundaries with others. I think that can really help you regulate your nervous system as you're clear about the things you want and you don't want from yourself and from others. And so many women expect so much from themselves that, like you said, people pleaser, perfectionism, are big, feeling guilty all the time, are afraid of not enough. These are all stressors. And when we start to downregulate them, whether it's through exercise or setting boundaries, it's a huge benefit to everybody. And I think boundaries could be a really good way to learn about yourself and about other people, how willing or not they are to honor your boundaries.
Mhm. I have a few clients who fill their calendar with so much because they do so much for everyone else. They are in that middle where they're caring for elderly parents and they're still taking care of their own kids and their grandkids, still working. So, what would you say to people who feel guilt for maybe not, they think they're not showing up enough for maybe a parent who has lost their spouse and they just carry so much guilt for not doing enough?
Can I please say this, ladies and gentlemen, to stop feeling guilty? Enough is enough. We do not have to carry the story from our mother and our grandmothers and great grandmothers through to today. We are inundated with so much information, with so much technology, with so much stuff. But especially as women, we tend to interpret everything as guilty, as not enough. I didn't do enough. I didn't help enough. And leave out who we need to really honor more, the most, is ourselves. Are we really taking care of ourselves? Or are we just spreading everything out because we think we, air quotes, should? And the should is also one of those words makes my hair stand up. We shouldn't feel guilty. We shouldn't feel like we have to help everybody. What you need to do is be happy with who you are. And I know that's easier said than done when you're in that sandwich situation. And I had these moments too where I felt guilty of not setting my boundary and not telling my son that I will not babysit the kids today. But I feel that we can all again step back and let that guilt wash over you and maybe find a different word for guilt. I don't know what that word could be, but why
Mhm.
do we have to feel guilty about everything?
Yeah, so true. And it is one of those things, I think it doesn't come easily. We can say we're going to work on that, but it definitely takes work to let go of that.
And
Hmm.
everybody pulls on you, and so you want to be just to everybody. And as like you said, I have my aging parents in Germany who are going through health problems, both of them in different households, but at the same time. And I have the grandkids in Amsterdam. I have my daughter who lives here. I have my son and family, and this whole. I have a job. I have a husband. I run a podcast. I wrote a book. It's like it's almost too much, but when you boil it down, is what really do you want? When it comes down, because the end of the day, all these people will fall away and all the book will be written, the run will be done. But what when it boils down, what is the essence of you? And where can you say, and I don't want to say it, no, just say no, because no is just a full sentence. Everybody says that jargon. But saying no is hard too.
Hmm.
It's really hard. But how can
Mhm.
you soften this so it works better for you?
Yeah, that is such an important skill to learn as we get older is to put
Mm.
yourself first because you can lose your spark. And so many of us do as we're raising our kids and we're working. And so to just reclaim that and to, I think it's a continuous work in progress of learning those boundaries and putting yourself first. Well, what if someone wants to reclaim their spark, reclaim their confidence this week? Can you give us a couple of steps that you would recommend?
Turn your phone off, lock yourself in a room without a TV. I know. It's like, the days when you just don't open your apps. Have you guys experienced that? That you have your phone and you're not clicking on all your apps you have on your phone? It takes persistence and you feel tempted to go right back at it.
Mhm.
But if you turn them off or you delete them from your phone, you can't do anything with it. Not that I'm encouraging people to delete their families and kids and all this, but it's like put a pause button on it and say, you know what? Hey, I need a break. Set your boundaries. I need a break. And there's nothing wrong with you claiming your break. And when you're not inundated with all the electronics, I included the TV because we all like to watch our favorite shows, is again, you go back to what I said earlier. You need to get quiet and you remove yourself from that constant pull. And there's no right or wrong.
Mhm.
However you go, it's like I said just earlier, I've been pulled into guilt trips from my son. And I allowed him. And afterwards, I was saying, why did you not speak up, Heike? There's days
Mhm.
when you feel stronger than others to speak up for yourself. And that's okay, but it's a learning process, I think. Step by step, you move forward.
It is so important, I think, and almost uncomfortable to just to stay quiet and like the whole meditation thing I struggle with sometimes because you have all these thoughts coming through your head and you just have to let them until you can quiet them down. And I remember last summer when I was 53 and I retired after teaching from 31 years and I thought I'm not ready to be done. And I loved teaching, so to walk away from that, and I did one of the craziest things I've done in my life, and I flew across the world to Greece and Italy to go on a women's retreat with strangers that I'd never met. It was a time for me to just really invest in myself for that week and to sit in some of that uncomfortable quiet, to ask myself questions and to dig deep to see where I wanted to land next. So it's so important.
Yep. That was very brave of you.
I have to say, even the part of because I don't even go out to eat by myself is the joke. And so for me to do that, to fly by myself and then to share a room with someone, and then I found out I had to share a bed with, and I'm like, okay, here we go. You just sometimes, and I think that's where growth happens when you just really push yourself outside of your comfort zone and you just go.
And be curious, which is, I see this as curiosity. When you said, okay, I wanted to do this, you had to book a flight. Maybe your husband took you to the airport, but then you had to make your way through the airport, do all the check-in and all the security. And then you arrive there and you don't know who to talk to because you're like, you don't really know anybody. And then you kind of
Mhm.
hang out there and then you have to see what happens. It's the curiosity that got you there. And I can only encourage women to be more curious because it doesn't matter what the end result is. You've had an amazing experience because I listened to that episode where you talk about it, where you said it was the best thing ever.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
what's the
there were
worst?
moments when your nervous system was going crazy, and there were so many things like you said, but at the end of it, if you just stick in there, you're gonna question, "Did I make a mistake? Did I do the right thing?" But I think when you do, you dive in and you just give it all you have, and you come away with so much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What mindset shift do you think makes the biggest difference in people?
The mindset shift to be honest with yourself or truthful. I wouldn't say authentic because I think authentic does not fit quite well. Everybody wants to be authentic, but be honest with yourself about the things that you want to do, you can do, you're willing to do. And this is also questions I ask sometimes my clients. I say, well, you want to do this. Are you willing to do that in order to get to that? So think about it. What is it that in your mind makes the willingness to do that shift? What is it for you?
Mhm.
And that's an open question.
Yeah, and a great one too. And I think you know it when you find the answer because it does feel aligned to you and it feels right in your soul. For parents listening, maybe I don't, as a teacher of 31 years and lots of parent teacher conferences, and now I work with teens as well. So
Right.
sometimes parents, we raised children, teens make choices, and maybe we feel frustrated with what they've chosen, and it's hard because it isn't what we think is best for them. So, what's one thing you would invite parents to notice, or maybe a mindset shift for them?
You touched on helicopter parenting a little earlier. I would say stop helicoptering. Let them make their choices. Let them make their mistakes. Yes, be available as a backup or as a sounding board. Don't let them just loose. Keep an eye on them. And I remember my daughter Melanie had years ago. She lives now close to me in Baltimore, near me in Baltimore, as a social worker. And she back then couldn't find a job. She graduated from college with a bachelor's degree and couldn't find a job. Was here in the States. Decided that she's going to move to Europe.
Hmm.
My little mousy has never been that far away from me without me. And she packed up her big bag and she went off and she started in, I think, in Barcelona and ended up in Belfast. So she set up camp in Belfast, started working as a barista, nothing, with a bachelor's degree in science. I'm like, what are you doing here? And she was literally trying to figure out what she really wanted to do. She said, I don't know. I will never swim with a shark. I'm not Jacques Cousteau, which was her original plan, that she became a scientist and swim with the sharks. And then she was in Belfast and she got the job and she was okay, but money was tight and it was hard to find friends. And you want to, as a parent, want to go over and help. It's like, I come, I help you find an apartment, I help you make friends, but you have to step back and let them do their thing. And then COVID hit, and everybody was locked in their apartments. Nobody could go more than, I think, 3 kilometers from their apartment. And she was, at that point, she had moved to her own small apartment, not with a roommate. And she was so lonely.
Mm.
She was so lonely. So we talked so many times on the phone to break her loneliness because the few friends she had, it was heartbreaking as a parent to see that.
Mhm.
And then as soon as the border started to open, people could travel again. I was like, grab your bags, move in with us. And she took my advice. So she came home. She stayed with us for probably a year until she figured out that she wanted to be a social worker. But all through that process, I let her do what she wanted to next. I was her sounding board in her decisions. I wanted to make sure that she's safe and that she's healthy,
Mhm.
that she knew that she wasn't stuck over there and she couldn't come home, that she had to have pride in what she's done. I'm like, no, just come home. It's dumb to
Mhm.
sit over there and be like this lonely and depressed.
Mhm. It is a fine balance, and you worry about your child's mental health, and you want them to be healthy, you want them to be happy. But really, it is so hard. But to pull back and let them figure some things out is such great advice. And to let them fail, but to be there to help them pick up the pieces when they need it. But it's a tough
It's hard.
balance.
It's
Hmm.
hard.
So kudos to you for letting her go off and how brave of her to do that. And then how terrible with COVID, and you just were just like paused. throughout that process. Have you ever noticed any parallels between raising kids and then all of your athletic world with maybe like resiliency or anything?
I expect a lot. I expect a lot from myself and my athletics, higher performance, and I expect the same from my kids. That's probably the biggest parallel. It's like I expect a lot. No slacking. Get the good numbers, grades. Be a good person. Be kind to other people. Be happy, but you got to step up to the plate. Don't
Mm.
whine and complain if things don't happen if you didn't put in the work.
Great advice. I wish you would have been a parent. I loved parents like you that brought me students like those that really, those are good virtues. And I think the being kind, the working hard, and not complaining and just to show up and to do your best is
Yeah.
so important. What about a piece of advice you could give to parents who are trying to raise confident kids, self-reliant young adults? So any advice for them?
I would say look at yourself first, who you were when you grew up. Are you expecting too much from them? Way more than where you were? But I always think looking back at who we used to be as kids in any form or fashion and our dreams and what we wanted, and how do we maybe project our dreams onto our kids? Is that what they want? Is it, do you honor them, or do you imply that they do what you didn't get to do? It's like my mom, she always wanted to be an actress. And not that I've ever been an actress, but I'm a podcast host now. I'm a public speaker. So I guess she kind of sent her vibe over to me that along the way, with my almost 65 years, I'm finally doing that. But pay attention to what it is that makes them different from you and their needs and who they are. They have their own personality.
Heike, can you guess what my mom came from a family of seven and didn't have the means to go to college? Can you guess what my mom wanted to be? A teacher.
She, a teacher, I was
A
like,
teacher.
there
And
you
so
go.
I think it is so important to have those influences and some direction sometimes. Sometimes I would go to my mom, like, I don't know what to do. Can you just tell me what to do? And she would never said, a teacher, even though she's like, well, you're really good at this. And I see you come alive when you're tutoring people. And so I think our parents do know us best. And that's another one that's a fine balance of walking that line of letting them choose and not putting our hopes and our dreams that we have for them because we think we know best.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share? Maybe advice, some mindset shift, or any personal insight before we end this?
I feel that too many women and also men think they're not going to start something because it may end up not being good enough. That not themselves, but what they're trying to achieve is not good enough for them, or not good enough. How do I word this the best? That follow your dreams, you are good enough, and the goal is good enough for what you want to be, where you want to be.
I had a former student on. She's an emergency room doctor now. And it went live today. In that, she just talked about how she sees so many people in their late 30s wanting to go back to school to do something, but they think it's too late. And so she just was so insightful and shared, time is going to pass no matter what. So would you rather go to school and in 5-10 years have the dream job that you want, or sit and still just kind of dream about it because it seems so scary?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us where people can find your book, Pursue Your Spark, or just learn more about the Spark method, your framework.
You can find my book anywhere you purchase your books, wherever that is, on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Nobles, or wherever you buy your book. And you can buy the book also as a soft cover, an ebook, or an audiobook for all those walkers out there. And you can find either Google Pursue Your Spark, or go to my website, or Google my name, Heike Yates, Heike, Yates. You can find me on all social media. Also, you can find my book there. You can find my courses and my blueprint there, and you can connect with me. And I would love to hear from you.
I love how tech savvy you are, even in midlife. It's wonderful. Heike, thank you so much for being here, and not just for your wisdom, but for your presence. I love your deep German roots and then that calm peace that you bring. So thank you for sharing today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Carrie, for having me.
To everyone listening, pushing harder can be heroic, but real strength comes when you notice your limits, listen to your body, and move forward in alignment with your life. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to follow Project U 2.2 so we can keep exploring these moments of growth, courage, and clarity together. You don't need a map for every step, but you can choose the next step that honors who you are right now. This is Project U 2.2. Have a great day. Heike, that was awesome. Great job. You're such a natural. I can tell you've done lots of speaking and lots of podcasting.
Well, it comes down to what questions you ask, Carrie. I mean, your interview, I actually listened to the interview today with the emergency room doctor.
Oh, you did? Oh, my
I
goodness.
did. I was like, oh, that's an interesting story. Let's listen to that one.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
And it's the questions. I mean, I've been podcasting now for 8 years, maybe 9 years, a long time. And when I look back at my first episodes of where I, you would go on and you say, hi, Carrie, how's the weather in Texas? Oh, it's great, Heike. How's it in Maryland? Oh, it's raining today. That was the beginning of the conversation and how it has evolved to where it is now. And it's the questions that you ask. Because you can ask me.
I think it's so good to see that growth in yourself. And I started podcasting, I think, in September, so just a few months, and maybe it was even October, I don't know. But I think I want to look back, kind of parts of me, and think, ew, that was so cringe, because then you're growing, right?
Exactly right.